Well, by my clock, it's exactly 1 p.m. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. It is really, really good to see you all. It's been so long, and I hope this is the first of many times that we'll get to connect like this. I'd like to begin by acknowledging, of course, that we are on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homeland of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, as well as the traditional homeland of the Métis people. I'd also like to acknowledge that our water is sourced from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Ontario. Every time we acknowledge all of those truths and reflect on our treaty relations, we have an opportunity to reflect on what we are doing, what we can do, what we should do to make Manitoba a more fair and just place for everyone who lives here. J'aimerais dire un grand bonjour et bienvenue à notre première assemblée tous ensemble depuis longtemps. Je suis très, très content d'être ici avec vous ensemble aujourd'hui. Now, I'd like to invite you to join me in a mindful moment. As we prepare for Remembrance Day tomorrow, I'll ask you to take a few deep breaths. Think about the sacrifice of others in the protection of our country, the importance of peace, and the ultimate sacrifice so many have made. So please join me in a few breaths. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you again for joining me and taking the time to join me in this town hall today. Our goal is to continue to meet twice a year to share information about our strategic direction and specifically the projects that help us to achieve those goals, to share any pressing corporate updates, and take the opportunity to help us nurture our culture, our commitment to compassion and caring through learning and shared stories. Today, I'll share some organizational updates. Our training department will share a bite-sized training activity. We'll hear about 2 strategic projects. We'll have some time for questions, and we'll share 2 really inspiring stories about people that we support. Please feel free to pop questions into the chat as the meeting goes along, and that way you won't forget what you want to ask. We'll answer all the questions during our question and answer time later in the agenda today. At that time, we'll also invite anyone who wants to ask a question directly to use the raise hand feature, and we'll call on you when it's your turn. Now, I think after 2 years of using Zoom and Teams and Spaces, if you care to remember Spaces, we're all pretty familiar, but just a reminder to mute yourself when not speaking to ensure that everyone has good sound quality. Of course, to Jen's point at the top of the meeting, one of our great challenges is to stay on time, so I'm going to jump right in and provide some updates. As this is my first town hall meeting in the role of president and CEO, I'd like to take a few moments to share a little bit about my vision and some thoughts about the organization and where we're headed. And the place to begin is to acknowledge that although I'm new to the role of president and CEO, the overall strategic direction that we're on is not changing. We are still committed to the 5-year strategic plan endorsed by our board and organized around the 6 key priorities of innovation, quality of life, advocacy, communication, workforce development, and capacity building. That strategic plan will continue to guide our work as we move ahead. Now, this is the 5th year of a 5-year strategic plan. So normally at this time, we will be hard at work developing our next strategic plan. However, given the experience of COVID-19 and given changes at the senior leadership level, our board has chosen to extend our current strategic plan by 1 year. This will allow us the time that we need to complete many important projects. There's at least 15 projects this year alone tied to our strategic plan. And through that work, come ever closer to turning our shared vision and values into meaningful change within our organization and in the lives of the people that we support. We talk a lot about spiritual health at St.Amant, and we talk about spiritual health having 3 components to it. A sense of self, so who am I? A sense of purpose. Why am I here on this earth? And having connection to others. As an organization at St.Amant, collectively, we have spiritual health as well. And that comes through as appreciation for the meaning of our work in the moment that we do it. No matter what our role is, that mindful recognition that the work that we do somehow, directly or indirectly, lands in the lives of the people that we support in a good way. That's part of our spiritual health. Also, the recognition of the journey that we're on from our current state to where we want to go in the future, informed by our strategic plan, as we continue to adapt and grow and evolve alongside our community, responding to new unmet needs. That's part of our spiritual health. And finally, the recognition and appreciation for why it is that we are one united organization. No matter what role we have, no matter what program or service we're in, we all are bound by a shared set of values, that deep commitment to the people that we support, to making sure that all people are seen and heard and honored and celebrated for the gifts that they bring to this world, and supporting people to make sure that they can live their best lives at every stage of life. That's a set of values that we all share. So that commitment to those values is expressed. The vehicle for turning that commitment into action is our strategic plan. And that's why that plan is so important. That, combined with the work that we do in relation to advocacy, engagement with stakeholders, making sure that no matter what we're doing, it's together with others, that's how we live our values. All of that work all together gives us a voice and the opportunity to inspire people to do their best work. Changing subjects, as you know, Shirley Labossiere has announced her retirement early next year. You may have seen that we're working with People First HR Services to recruit a chief financial officer. Shirley's been leading in our organization almost 20 years. So we're putting a lot of thought into our succession and how we can best meet the needs of the executive and our organization. In an effort to do that, effective December 5th, we have also changed our organizational structure to split reporting for the directors. Some will now report to me directly, and some will remain reporting to the CFO. You can see the new org structure in last week's communication from me on the intranet. Okay. Now, I'm going to move things around a little bit, and I'm going to take a little break from speaking, and I'm introduce our first presenter to speak about the stabilization project. So Sarah, without further ado, I will pass the floor to you.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone. So nice to see you all, and thanks for giving me some space in this meeting to talk about this really exciting, important work. I think Jen's going to pull up some slides that we can share. We all had a good chuckle at the leaders meeting about my complete incompetence with sharing PowerPoint presentations. So if you ever have a day where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, just think back to that meeting, because we all have those days. Okay, so stabilization. I want to start by just recognizing the hard work that's been put in over the years. Yes, this is a multi-year project, but in this last year in particular, I want to really acknowledge the leadership of Kate McKay from our operations team, Todd McDonald and Sheena Brown, and also thank the Health and Transition Services leadership and nursing leadership teams for developing and delivering the education and training required for staff to be able to work safely in the new space. And then finally, a massive thank you to all of you who have been part of transitioning into this new space. And of course, to the St.Amant Foundation and our generous donors for making this vision a reality. So as you're all aware, the cottage area, or what was formerly known as the cottage area in H&TS, has been undergoing a large-scale renovation. The official name of this strategic project is also the goal. Create a safe and supportive environment for people requiring stabilization. So I'm going to share more information on the history of this project, along with current and future state. Next slide, please. So when River Road Place first began the journey to deinstitutionalization, the people supported in the cottages were amongst the first to transition into the community. The people supported in this area had the lowest support needs, and many were eager to explore what a life in the community had to offer them or could offer them. As these individuals moved out, we started to see that there was an unmet need for youth and adults requiring higher behavioral support. And so the concept of a short-term residential stabilization service was born, and the program started to welcome individuals into the Ashview, Birchview, and Cedarview areas for this type of support. It quickly became evident, however, that a space that was originally designed to support a large number of individuals with low support needs was not the best design for this new population we were serving. So the existing space design was not able to safely accommodate more than one individual with high behavior needs at a time, which drastically limited the number of people we could support, often to a maximum of 3 across those 3 areas. And it also resulted in an increase in isolation for the people supported there. Next slide, please. Oh, hang on. Great. So here you see some before pictures. This is specifically of Ashview, but it is reflective of the old design for all 3 of those areas. And although large, the original design was both outdated and also very hospital-like in appearance, especially with that really nice green floor and walls. And then there were concerns around accessibility and safety too, primarily due to blocked sight lines with all of the walls and the doors. There were also multiple doors, and there were bedroom and bathroom location challenges. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the planning phase, and planning for this project began many years ago, and it was kind of in the final stages of approval when I joined St.Amant in the fall of 2019. This phase focused on the space, making sure the space meets the safety needs of the people supported and the staff who were supporting them, while also being warm and welcoming. This phase also included conversations about cost and timelines, and then, of course, making sure that this work, or demonstrating that this work is in line with St.Amant's strategic plan was also a priority in this phase. Next slide. So as we were planning and finalizing those plans, to help us understand what success was going to look like or could look like, it was really important to ensure that we were focused on the people we support. We wanted to make sure that the discussion wasn't solely based on renovation and construction of a space. And so the formal leadership of the project ended up being shared by both operations and health and transition services. So this diagram is simple and in no way captures everything, but it's a great visual reminder of how the various elements of a person's life really impact their success and well-being. This wraparound and holistic approach to care really helped frame the goals of the project, while also demonstrating the commitment St.Amant has to fulfilling the potential of each person we support. So this really led the team to determine 2 primary goals. We wanted to create a safe and welcoming space that could provide high-level behavior support to a total of 9 individuals, and to ensure that the model of care and the staff skill set matches the population being served and supports successful discharge into the community. So in terms of the environment, which is the top circle there, we wanted, as mentioned, to build a space that can safely accommodate a time-limited, intensive period of support, followed by a step down or a lower acuity care as people get closer to their discharge dates. Health services are provided by a multidisciplinary team, and that team consists of nurses, personal support workers, physicians, allied health, psychology, spiritual health, and they all work together to create care plans that the end result is an individual being ready to transition to or back to the community. The person supported and their support network are active and integral members of the care team, and they do play a key role in achieving a successful discharge. And then, of course, community agencies and stakeholders are engaged early in an individual's stay to identify and plan for the support someone will need when they are discharged. And these discussions don't just focus on health and medical needs, they really also focus on quality of life and include the concepts of meaningful connections. And just to note, there are many, many moving parts here. You know, we recognize that this environment still supports a lot of people who have lived here for a long time. And so this is an evolving process, and the HTS leadership team and staff continue to develop and refine the care processes as we go. Next slide, please. Okay, so as mentioned, making sure this work is in line with our strategic plan is really important. This project formally falls under and is a great example of St.Amant's commitment to innovation. HTS is the only place in Manitoba that offers this kind of care and support for autistic and disabled people and to those living with acquired brain injury. Beyond innovation, though, it's also very easy to draw lines to other priorities within the strategic plan. So quality of life is improved when people receive the right person-centered care in the right place. Our workforce continues to develop through focused training and education on supporting unique people with unique needs. And excellent and robust communication was essential throughout this project and in the daily care and planning for people supported. Next slide. So talk a little bit about the work. As I was thinking about this slide, you know, there's lots of moving parts to this work, and the overall work involved cannot be understated. There was consultation with a variety of stakeholders. There were visits to facilities in Winnipeg, other parts of Manitoba, and even into the US. And this was done to ensure that the space met best practice guidelines related to safety and the care and the care experience and quality of life for the people we are serving. Our commitment to collaboration was integral throughout this project. We learned a lot about the need to ensure those who are designing and building the space understood the type of clinical work and care being done and how to appropriately time completion of the work with introduction of people supported into the new space. Operations and HTS needed to really be side by side in lockstep throughout this project. And as mentioned, this project would have remained a dream without close collaboration with the St.Amant Foundation to raise the $4 million required to do this work. Communication between various teams working on this project was key, as was the need to provide staff and families, the St.Amant Foundation, and our funders, keep them up to date on our progress. And then construction. So construction involved demolition, uncovering unexpected repairs in an old building. And as with most things over the last 3 years, COVID-19 really impacted supply chain, construction workforce, timelines, and cost. But you know, through that continued collaboration and communication, these challenges and delays were and continue to be mitigated to the best of our ability. Next slide. All right, so before we do some reveal pictures, you know, the point we're at right now is phase 1 of the project is complete, and we have welcomed 2 people supported into Birchview. So huge win with that completion. Cedarview and staff work areas were also completed as part of phase 1. And phase 2 is scheduled to begin shortly, and that really is focused on the demolition and renovation of Ashview and the completion of a few of the other supportive spaces there, so the staff locker room, etc. Staff training is ongoing. A big chunk of it has been completed, and the training also, it involves getting familiar with the space, but it also includes updated emergency measures, procedures, especially related to Code Red and Code White. So before I show you some pictures, just to share, we are hearing a lot of positive feedback on the look and the feel of the space. There's a ton of natural light in the common areas, the kitchen, the bathrooms. The bedrooms are spacious and private. Washrooms are accessible and safe. And the area also includes a large family space for visits and activities. There's access to the outdoors from each unit. There's a modern kitchen and a welcoming common space. This space was designed with integrated technology as well, and this is to ensure staff can maintain sightlines, both physically or virtually at all times, which supports safety without having to constantly hover over somebody. And the option to observe virtually allows people supported to have some privacy when they need it. So next slide. Okay, so here are some photos of Birchview, and this is the what most of us would call the living room in our homes. So it's a space to watch TV, play video games, or just generally hang out. Behind the space where those windows are, you can see the central workstation. And so that has windows all the way around it, and that's where staff can do some of their work, but also maintain sight lines. So if there is a time where someone needs to take a phone call, check their emails, or complete some documentation, they can do that while also continuing to support people visually. On the other side of that central station is the dining and games area, and there is a pass-through directly from there into the kitchen. Next slide. So here you see photos of a bedroom and the kitchen. There's no sheets on the bed in this photo, but you can see that the bedrooms are single occupancy and they are accessible as well. The furniture is sturdy and weighted, yet it still has a nice look and feel to it. The kitchen is modern, it's well lit, and it provides the ability to support people in learning some life skills such as cooking, cleaning, and general food preparation. Next slide. So these are just a couple of quick shots of staff work areas, doesn't include all of them, but on the left, you can see the medication room. And then on the right is a large staff workspace. So looks even bigger with those small desks in there. But these spaces are a significant upgrade from what was available previously. And Sheena, the manager in this area, will be working with her team to make sure that these spaces have everything they need to do their work. So we expect to see some bookcases and shelves and things like that added as people start to work in the space. Additionally, you will notice that the actual Birchview area is pretty minimalist. There is a plan to add some more home-like touches through artwork and other safe accessories, and this is going to be done in consultation with people supported and staff. Next slide. Okay, so that's where we are right now, and of course, we're always thinking about the future. As mentioned, the driver behind this project was an increase in support requests for autistic youth and young adults with significant behavior support needs. Over the last 3 years, however, we have seen requests for this type of service decline drastically. And this is, due to supports becoming a bit more available in the community for people. So now we are exploring other unmet needs and assessing our capacity to meet them within this new space. I can share that we have successfully supported individuals with acquired brain injury and some concurrent mental health diagnoses. And we continue to engage with our funders and our external stakeholders to see what other unmet needs are out there and how we can meet them. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. That was excellent and a really great example of how to take a vision and values and turn them into real change in the world. It's great. All right, I've got a couple of corporate updates to share now, and I'm going to start with an update surrounding privacy. So I'd like to take this opportunity in person to thank all of you for your support and patience through the privacy breach and the password resets, some of which are still ongoing. That was a major disruption, and you all did an incredible job of connecting with your teams and doing what needed to be done to continue to offer services through a complicated time. I want to say a big thank you to Kristen Dunn, our coordinator of health information and privacy, for her role in answering questions, preparing the breach notifications, and engaging with the Ombudsman's office. It's very important and detail-oriented work, so big thank you to Kristen. And also a lot of appreciation and gratitude for Severio and the entire IT team. for their immense dedication to securing our network, supporting our staff to reset all those passwords, teaching everyone how to do multi-factor authentication, troubleshooting, and supporting an external security company, a cybersecurity company, to investigate that breach. So we've learned a few lessons through this. One, really reinforcing the importance of ensuring that our network is secure. Having a secure IT network is as mission critical and as important as preventing fire and flood. It's really so important. But we've also learned that we have some work to do inside of our network to make sure that we're managing and protecting all records as best as we can. So we have a couple of important projects on the go that speak to this. So one is our Gold Care project, which is primarily focused on information covered under the Personal Health Information Act, so health records and so on. And we have a separate project, the File Retention Project, which is really focused on business records, records relating to staff, and other information covered by the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, or FIPA. Both of these projects are very important. And this is a real opportunity to make sure that we are in a very consistent and cohesive manner across the entire organization, taking steps to ensure we're upholding best practices with relation to the retention and destruction of those critical documents. So you'll hear more about this in the weeks and months to come, but it's certainly an important one, and one that we'll be providing updates on regularly. I'd also like to touch a little bit on inflation. I had a chance to, with some colleagues, present to the on this topic to the board last month. And I'd like everyone here to be aware of the conversations that we're having. From a St.Amant budget perspective, inflation is not impacting our bottom line too much. And the reason for that is the vast majority of our budget is devoted to salaries. And those are not affected by inflation. But we do know that inflation is affecting everyone on this call, our families, and the people that we support, especially those who are in direct support roles. We're experiencing the highest rate of inflation in 31 years. And it's unlike what many of us have experienced in our adult lives. We all know that groceries, gas, goods and services, transportation, clothing, you name it, everything costs more, and it's affecting all of us. That can affect our nutrition, our ability to engage in the world, and even our mental and physical health. As an organization, as colleagues, as people who care for one another, I invite you just to be aware of that and thoughtful about that, and to meet each other with compassion. If you see a colleague is struggling, you can remind them that there are resources available. EAP, Employee Assistance Program, mental wellness supports. And there may also be opportunities through our foundation for people we support to provide some assistance as well. And if you have further ideas on what we can do to support our colleagues and the people that we support, I'd certainly I invite you to have some discussion with your leaders about that. Now I'm going to take another break, and I will invite Danielle Robidoux, Manager of Corporate Communications, to tell us about the new and quite beautiful St.Amant website project.
Thanks so much, Ben. Thanks for having me today, everyone. I'm going to share my screen right now. Go. Okay, yeah, thank you very much for having me today. So I'm here to talk about the new St.Amant.ca. Some of you may have already seen it, but I'm here to share a little bit of the behind the scenes on it. Communication is one of our 6 priority areas in our current strategic plan. And we know communication is an important tool in building trust and relationships, and that a website is a really important part in that framework. And it's often the first place that people connect with or learn about St.Amant and learn about our organization. So with the digital presence being more important than ever now, we wanted our website to reflect our values. So we wanted it to be hospitable, we wanted it to be welcoming and easy to use. So from that strategic priority came the website project. And the website project goals, we wanted it to be accessible. So to meet the highest accessibility standards that we can right now in the web world. We want it to be bilingual. So we are a designated bilingual facility based on the unique services that we provide, like Sarah mentioned earlier in her presentation, as well as where we're situated in the province. So we want our website to reflect that bilingualism. Mobile friendly. I'm sure some of you are joining us from iPhones and different areas today, mobile devices. So that's exactly, we want our website to be able to be accessible and really easy to use from your mobile phone. And I'm sure many of you have heard or I know some of us have, that navigating social services in our province can be complex. And we wanted to make our website a little bit easier for the people we support, families, and other important stakeholders who are trying to navigate the system. We wanted to take that and make it a little bit easier for them. So we tried to use really plain language, come up with a concise and consistent design, and make it easy to use. So I keep saying we, and we is this incredible project team you see here on the screen. So everyone that you see here listed worked tirelessly on this website together. We worked together and kind of developed all sorts of different ideas, thoughts. What are some of the questions that you normally get asked on the phone? Can we help navigate that through the website? So this team here did incredible work, and I thank each and every one of them for their dedication and their patience and their hard work on this project and on this new website. So we heard a little bit about what the project was, the team, and now how do we do? So we did reach that's website content accessibility guidelines AAA level. So right now that's the highest level of accessibility that we can reach, and we've attained that. And so I'm going to walk you through the website and show you a few different ways as to how we attain that level. The website is bilingual, so everything that you can read in English, you can also read in French, and everything that we will be putting on the website going forward will be in English and in French. It is mobile friendly, so you can access it in many different ways on your phone, and it should be nice and easy to read. And we also have a new navigation system in place to make it a little bit easier to read. So I'm going to now, without further ado, share the website. Some of you may have already seen it, but some of you may have not. So here we go. So this is the new St.Amant.ca. So I'm going to bring you through a few different areas, and then, feel free to click along or just follow along on the screen here. So programs and services. We've divided it through age range. So preschool, under 5. We can kind of look through there and see. So these are the programs and services that are available to, let's say, a family member who's looking, or somebody that you're supporting is under 5. Here is a list of all of the programs and services that someone can access for a person who's preschool age. Let's look at an example of foster care. When we spoke about clean, consistent design, every program and service area, we really tried to have a very similar kind of overview, kind of a brief overview of the service or the program, who qualifies, as well as frequently asked questions, if that's something that is available for the program or service area, and then a phone number and an email address to contact for more information. So as we said, keeping it really high level, easy to use, hoping people will take action however they need to take action to access those services. You'll also see our research center has a nice section on the website, really great overview of their projects. You can filter by year, you can search presentations. They have nice kind of brief overviews, as well as publications. Foundation, they have their own section of the website as well. So here you can learn about the upcoming events like the St.Amant party, buy your ticket today, as well as all the different ways to donate to the St.Amant Foundation. Now, if we go back to the St.Amant side, one area I wanted to share is the events and training calendar. So this calendar, I think I made an annotation on the, let me see. Oh, I don't know, sorry. This yellow line does not exist normally on the website. As you can see here on the calendar, this is where we want to house all of our information for St.Amant and St.Amant Foundation. So if we look on the 23rd, there's a Meaningful Connections training happening, as well as the St.Amant party. So we're really hoping that this calendar will serve as a calendar for the organization at large. So whether it be something happening internally or externally, that is where you can find it. So I talked a little bit about accessibility, and this is this neat little feature here where there's all sorts of different ways that you can modify the screen to help make it more accessible. And that is one of the ways that we were able to reach that AAA status. English and French, this little button here brings you right to the French side, and you'll see a fully bilingual website. I think we've shared this before, but I'm just going to share it again here to make sure everyone knows. Staff login. So for some of us who work from a computer, this is where you'd access your remote computer, your remote desktop. For others, it might be where you would log in for your paycheck or something like that. So here's the staff login button at the top, and then there's another staff login here at the bottom. And so that's where you would be able to log in. So we had a brief overview of the website there. I'm going to share the rest of my screen again. Back to the. So this is the website is a living, breathing organism. So this is where we will be updating the website as we go further along. It's a living, breathing entity, and changes will always need to be made. So if you are someone who is interested or has the responsibility of modifying certain information or sharing information about your program or service, we're going to ask you to head on over to the communications request form on the intranet and pop in a request to make a modification on that website. So as we shared, this is something that is really important to keep up to date, and we appreciate everybody's help on this. So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for letting me share a little bit more about the website, and thank you to everyone who has contributed so far.
Danielle, thank you very much for sharing all of that work. It's a huge amount of work. A lot of it happened in a remarkably short period of time, and a lot of gratitude to every single person who was involved in developing the content and reaching out to your teams. So thank you, everyone who's involved in that. What a great project. What a great website. Thank you. All right, now I would like to invite Peter Duff, Director of Community Special Projects, to talk about the current referral bonus and wage campaign.
Thank you, Ben. And hi, everybody. Nice to see you all here today. I don't have a PowerPoint to share, but I am going to share some information about some things that are happening inside St.Amant and also externally that are efforts to address recruitment and retention challenges. So the first thing I'm going to let you know is that this year, 22-23 fiscal year, Community Living Disability Services provided a one-time grant to agencies providing residential services in Manitoba. The conditions were it had to be expended fully within the current fiscal year, and that it needed to be targeted towards recruitment and retention of direct support staff working in CLDS funded programs. So at St.Amant, this is impacting the CRP and certain components of the community services programs. So there's a bunch of things that we're doing to try and apply that money to recruitment. Some of it is being directed at increasing the capacity of our recruitment team within human resources. Some of it is being directed at increasing our advertising and our ability to get word out about jobs that exist here at St.Amant in those program areas. But the one that I wanted to give you a bit more information on is the way that we're using that money to increase or enhance the referral incentive program. We know here at St.Amant that one of the best sources of new employees is referrals that come from existing employees and volunteers, people that know the organization and know the work, tapping a friend or a family member and saying, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for St.Amant. That is one of our best sources of referrals for new employees. So there's a couple of things that we're doing, and I hope this isn't the first time you're hearing about them, but perhaps you'll hear a little more information today. One of those new initiatives is a monthly random draw for $1,000, and the names of anyone who has submitted a referral in that month period of time will then go into a random draw. And we've had 4 of those draws already. This started in July. And so July, August, September, and October draws have been done. In order for a referral to be eligible for the draw, there's some things you have to know. One is that you have to use the referral incentive form, which you can find on the intranet that Danielle just introduced us to. If you go to your My St.Amant page and look under the tools drop down, find the forms menu, and under human resource forms, you will find the referral incentive form. So it has to be made on that form and submitted to HR. The person you're referring has to be applying for a direct support role in an eligible position. So that's a support worker, key worker, treatment staff, or senior treatment staff working in CRP or CS environments. The person has to be qualified, they have to be interviewed, and they have to be deemed eligible for hire. So they don't have to necessarily be hired by the time the draw happens, they just have to be deemed eligible to be hired. And then your name would go into a draw for the $1,000. The other enhancement that we've made to that referral program is on the referral incentive side. So for many years now, referral sources have been eligible to receive a $50 award if somebody they referred gets hired and completes probation. Well, we're increasing that for these specific positions. Again, support worker, key worker, treatment staff, senior treatment staff. If the person you refer is hired and completes their orientation and accepts a position with an EFT, so it's not casual employees would not be considered eligible if they're hired as only casual. But if they're hired into an EFT and in 3 pay periods they receive pay for hours worked, then you would receive, the referral source receives $500 if that, for the employee referred. If that employee happens to be bilingual in English and French, then the amount would be $750 that the referral source would get. And as Danielle mentioned, we are a designated bilingual site, and we sometimes are challenged to make sure we have enough bilingual employees. So there's a bit of an enhanced incentive to refer folks that are bilingual. So again, it only applies to people applying to certain positions. However, the referral of someone to those positions can come from anybody who works for St.Amant currently or volunteers for St.Amant, excluding the executive team members. So you don't have to work in CRP to refer somebody for a job in CRP or CS. Just a note that all of those awards are considered income, and so they will be subject to deductions like income tax, CPP, EI, and union dues if applicable, and the awards would be processed through payroll. Wanted to let you know about some other things that are happening external to St.Amant. One of these is an Abilities Manitoba initiative, and some of you may have seen this already, but Abilities received some government funding to develop a sector awareness and recruitment campaign, essentially a multimedia campaign promoting the direct support professional profession. So they're using social media, radio, billboards, print media, etc., to get word out about what does it mean to be a direct support professional. This campaign was launched in the middle of October and is scheduled to run till the end of December. It's driving people to a landing page on the Alliance of Direct Support Professionals of Manitoba website. I'll put this in the chat in a moment, but directsupportmb.ca is the page. If you type that into your browser, you can go and have a look if you haven't already seen the campaign on social media. Does a really nice job of talking about some of the benefits aside from wages that come with being a direct support professional and working in the life of someone with a disability. Now, there's lots of great effort being made on recruitment. You're all aware, if you've been watching the news, that we're not the only sector that is struggling to find staff to work in all of the jobs that are available. There's an awareness in our sector in particular, though, that a large part of our problem relates to the wages that direct support professionals are paid. And so there's a coalition that includes Abilities Manitoba, working alongside People First of Manitoba, the Family Advocacy Network, Community Living Manitoba, and the Alliance of Direct Support Professionals of Manitoba. And that coalition is currently undertaking a really aggressive lobby campaign directed at the Premier, Cabinet Ministers, Treasury Board members, opposition critics, and MLAs in general to draw attention to the wage crisis in our sector. This isn't a new problem. We've been advocating around a need for better wages for direct support professionals for many years now, but it has truly come to a crisis point within the last 6 to 12 months, and especially as announcements have been made about minimum wage rising to $15 an hour by October 2023. We have a situation right now where we're struggling to attract and keep people. It's directly impacting service quality. Staff are being mandated, redirected to unfamiliar locations, supporting people they don't know, and this is creating, discomfort for everyone involved. And so this aggressive wage campaign is going to really put the stories of people supported and their families front and center with the politicians to say something needs to happen now. We would encourage you to get involved. If you're a direct support professional, get involved with the Alliance. If you're a family member, get involved with the Family Advocacy Network. And for all the rest of us, we can be involved through Abilities. And we have an election coming up next year, and the Disability Matters Vote campaign is going to get underway. So would encourage you to also get involved in that. Thanks, Ben. I will leave it there.
All right, Peter, thank you very much. And I'd really like to echo Peter's comments with respect to the wage campaign. St.Amant is a proud member of Abilities Manitoba, and we are a strong supporter and participant in the contributor to the Disability Matters Votes campaign every election cycle as well. We believe that we are part of a larger community of organizations, all committed to doing right by people in the community, and part of supporting people in the community to have a good life and a good quality of life is to ensure that the staff supporting them are well trained, stable, and appropriately recognized through compensation, and we need everyone's support around that. Before I move on, looking ahead, we are getting close to the Q&A part of our time together, and I've noticed in the chat there's a number of questions that seem to be related fairly specifically to one specific work environment. And so I would just invite anyone who has very specific questions that touch to your specific workplace or work situation to perhaps have some conversations directly with your supervisor, your manager, and have some of those offline. And we'll try to touch as much as possible on questions that are sort of apply broadly. Before I get there, though, I do want to talk a little bit about COVID-19 because that's our last corporate update for today. And the really short story is on COVID is, if we learn one thing over the last 2.5 years, and we should just pause for a moment and reflect on how remarkable it is that after 2.5 years, we're still talking about COVID. We don't entirely know what's going to come next. Currently and through the fall, we have not seen very high levels of COVID activity within our community, either among people supported or among staff and volunteers. But we are monitoring the situation closely, and we are following expert recommendations, and we are always prepared to do what it takes to keep people safe and maintain a safe work environment. Having said that, I think we've all learned one lesson through COVID, which is that health is more than just physical health. We all have mental health, physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And as we enter this next phase of COVID, we need to look to have some intentional and thoughtful discussion around how to strike a reasonable balance to promote health overall in a holistic way, while of course keeping vulnerable people safe and well supported. So while there is still illness circulating, we are continuing to see that vaccines are effective in keeping most people out of hospital, and we know how we can protect ourselves. So you can wear a mask, practice good hand hygiene, and stay home if you're sick. And I would strongly, strongly encourage you, if you haven't already, to please get your flu shot and go and get your next booster. So the bivalent booster is out there and it's available. And Auc Health is ready to take appointments for any of our staff and volunteers who wish to seek their flu shot or their next booster. All right, so now we are at the question and answer section of our agenda. And Jen, I'm going to look to you to see if you'd like to start with questions in the chat.
Thanks, Ben. We actually had some questions that came in earlier. So I'm going to read them out, and then I think you may want to pass them on, or you can answer them yourself. Sorry, I'm just trying to find them. Okay. Can the chains be removed from the chairs on the cafeteria, in the cafeteria?
Well, that is an excellent question, and I will turn to our Director of Operations, Carolyn Kramer, for a response.
Thank you. Yes, they will. They're actually in the process of being removed, and there's some broken ones. So I can commit to having those removed by the end of day tomorrow. That's the plan I have with operations right now. So it'll look a little more, I would say it'll change the aesthetics a bit of the cafeteria. So I also look forward to it being removed. So thank you.
Sounds great. So we will unleash the chairs and have a new experience in the cafeteria. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, is it possible to start a volunteer group to keep the Bueller Gardens beautiful?
What a great question. And I will again look to Carolyn for some answers on that.
So I understand I'm fairly new here, and I did seek some background information on the Bueller Gardens, and I understand that there was a wonderful group of volunteers that used to assist us kind of pre-COVID. I understand that there was an access to the washroom issue through COVID, where most of their work is outside, and we were really restricting access at the time to St.Amant. So one of the things that we'll be working with volunteer services is to bring that group back. I know the group has changed, I think, even in leadership or a chair, and we will look at ensuring that that gets addressed this year. So it's unfortunate if anyone has photos of what it looked like last year, because we've kind of set the bar low. So they're going to do a fabulous job next summer. And then Sarah, I think you actually put your hand up after I answered the question about the chains and the chairs.
Yeah, and not to be the COVID Debbie Downer of the group, but just a reminder that even when the chains are removed, we do still need to stay 6 feet apart. So I know the chains weren't great. It was an effort to dissuade folks from moving chairs around. So just a reminder that all of those same guidelines apply. When you're eating, you need to be 6 feet apart.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you both. And Sarah, thank you for that important reminder as well.
Okay, so we had another question earlier about the roof at the entranceway. So someone is asking whether or not we received WRHA emergency funding to fix the roof at the front door.
I'll take that one. I've won the lottery today. The Q&A lottery. Okay, so as everybody is aware, our facility is extremely old. We are working through sort of an asset management plan to ensure we're catching up on some of the preventative maintenance that maybe hasn't been done in the past. So we have actually sequentially noted every roof and broke that down with WRHA, and we did a risk matrix on the roofs that need to be addressed first. And unfortunately, that area isn't on there for funding this fiscal year, but I will cover off that in fall, I did a small approval for some funding to try and redirect some of that water and flow. And I'm hoping I know that visually it's made a bit of a difference in the rain, and we're really hoping that it kind of gives us a big bang for our buck in the winter in terms of redirecting some of that water. But just so everybody's aware, it is not lost on me that is an ongoing issue. And we will be having a meeting with WRHA coming up to discuss some emergency funding for a couple other potential projects, and this is certainly one of them on there because it does create more of a hazard at the facility. And I will say it's a heightened sort of view set because in COVID everybody was drawn to that front entrance and needed to utilize that. So there are people that are able to use other, I'm not saying if it's icy use another entry, I don't think that's fair to say, but I'm just saying I think it was sort of a heightened awareness that was happening there because it has been a long time I think that we've had this issue. So it's on the hit list with WRHA, and I will communicate out when it gets funding. It is one of my top priorities because it is the one that gets sort of the most feedback. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, I think we've got one that we could probably throw to Sarah, and it's about where are the new admissions for health and transition services?
Yeah, it's a great question. So to speak very plainly, the number of referrals we currently are receiving do not at all align with the rate at which people are leaving our facility. I spoke in our HNTS pre-summer town hall about kind of the planning and discussions that need to happen because we know there's unmet needs out there. But the current type of service we're providing, there just doesn't seem to be a need for it in the way it's currently being provided. So I don't have an answer for you. We do receive referrals at times, and we accept individuals for care as we receive them, as long as they align with our kind of our eligibility criteria. But the short answer is the referrals aren't coming at the rate at which people are leaving HNTS. So more to come. There is going to be an HNTS staff town hall kind of end of November, early December. And I'll go into a bit more detail about some of the conversations and discussions that are happening about looking for opportunities to meet unmet needs.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, we have a question about what are we doing to support retention aside from wages? And I think Peter might be willing to take that one. And then also there was mention about the contract, outdated contract.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, a good question. I mean, I spoke lots about wages, and it's not the only thing that retains people for sure. So I think there are other things that we are always looking at and trying to do. We do have a appreciation and recognition committee that works on things we can do to make sure staff are feeling appreciated and recognized for their good work. We know from our engagement survey feedback that wages tends to be kind of the number one issue, at least for staff in community programs. But amongst other things, there's desire for opportunities for growth and promotion and opportunities to participate in training. So there's a number of things I think we can do and try to do to make St.Amant a really desirable workplace and somewhere people want to stay. We certainly would always welcome suggestions from employees. If there's things you think would assist with retention that we aren't doing anything, then Jen, I think we have a suggestion box email that maybe somebody could send some stuff to. On the contract front, we are in negotiations on the community side of things with MGU 178. And I think that MNU has been, if not settled, then nearing settlement. So yes, we're very aware that those bargaining groups have been waiting a long time to get new contracts settled, and we're working hard with our union partners across the table trying to get those new agreements in place.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, I was just trying to see, I'm not sure if Severio is on the call or if we've got anyone from IT who could update us on eChart. I know that was one of the tools that was affected in the breach. So I don't know if anyone has an update.
Oh, I am here, Jen.
Okay, hi.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Yes, eChart. Since the breach, we've been down. So the latest update I have is that we have another meeting next week with the shared health security team to see the status and maybe an alternate way that we can access eChart. So the issue here is that eChart was connected. There was basically a private connection between shared health and St.Amant. That connection has been disconnected just to, during the breach, to protect them and from any security issue that might have leaked across that private connection. So they are, validating our security, and they had a meeting next week. So there's another follow-up meeting I have with them next week. So hopefully I'll have an answer, at least as to a direction they want to take to reestablish connection for eChart. So hopefully next week I'll have an answer for you, at least at least a direction, and then we can see a timeline on getting us back connected to eChart. So okay, thanks.
Great, thanks so much. Okay, there was a question about EV chargers. Is that electronic vehicle chargers? I'm assuming. I don't know anything about EV chargers and whether or not we would ever install any. Caroline, has that been a conversation?
I'll take it. So this is something that was in discussion, our sustainability committee. I think we have a meeting coming up, as well as I know that there is a team member that's had some questions that Paul is working with on how we can assist them in the interim prior to having that infrastructure available. So everybody is aware, again, like our facility is of age, and there are just, I would say, more heightened priorities around roofing and foundation work. And this piece would be an opportunity potentially for a grant application. So it's not lost on us and is part of our planning, our capital planning.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Okay, I think we're running out of time for questions. We will save all of the questions that are in the chat. Some of them are very specific to work areas, and so those will be forwarded on to those areas. And then the others, I think there's some that are just comments that we will take, that we hear you. MNU is waiting for a response. There's questions about PSW expectations, wondering if IV therapy will help fill unmet needs. So lots of good comments and questions that we'll take away. And I'll throw it back to you, Ben.
Okay, thank you, Jen. And thank you to all of my colleagues on the screen for answering those questions so knowledgeably. And thank you to Jen for facilitating that. So lots of great questions, and I appreciate the level of engagement and the connection that you show to your work. And I'd like to move on to invite Christina Kircher, Manager of Corporate Education, to share some bite-sized learning with us. Christina?
Great, thanks, Ben. Let me just get my screen up here. All right, so I am super excited to share with all of you today just some information about a new workshop that we have available. So this is born out of the Advocacy Project, which was led by Lindsay McComb. And Corporate Education is now offering a full day training on advocacy. Now I know, when you hear full day, you're like, oh my goodness, that's a long day, Christina. That's a long day. But I can tell you right now, it's a fun day. It's a fun day. Another question you might be asking yourself is, tell me more. I want to hear about this new advocacy training. So that's what I'm about to do. So it is a full day. It is exciting. There's lots of engagement tools throughout there. I'm looking at Danielle, who's smiling right now. And so she knows, we throw a lot into our training to make them exciting. These advocacy workshops are co-facilitated by Jacqueline Leach. You'll see an image of her up on the screen there as well. So Jacqueline is supported by St.Amant. She is an incredible advocate, was part of the Champions group who helped direct some of this training as well. And she's so happy to join us. So anyone who's taking the training will be able to spend half a day. She'll be joining us for the mornings, where she will be talking about her experience, helping us lead through some of the activities. She'll be able to participate in some of those breakout rooms too. So some of you have had a chance to be there, and that's some of the feedback that we hear, is that people are just so happy to have her be part of that training and to hear her perspective as well. So Jacqueline, we've entered into another contract with her for 2023, where she's committing to attend as many of the trainings as possible. Again, there for the morning portion. The photo of Jacqueline that you see here is of her with a painting that she actually made for the advocacy workshop and donated to St.Amant as well. These are some of the learning objectives. I'm not going to read them all out to you, but you can see them here. It is a really full day where we talk a lot about what advocacy is, learning a little bit about the legislation, lots of really interesting discussions that come out of it too, where people start thinking about, how are we doing? What can we do better? What are some of the risks involved as well? And really wanting people to walk away with an action plan. So what are you going to do? And those of you who've taken a lot of the corporate training that we have, that's a big focus. So what are you going to do the next shift that you have, the next time you come to work, the next time that you meet up with your team? What are you going to do with that information? I have a really great video to show you, and this is part of our training too. So part of this advocacy training is to talk about what we're passionate about. And we really need to get just in connection with those things that are near and dear to us to really understand how advocacy works. So here's one of the videos that we played during our workshop as well.
To set the definition, making choice. I need the definition. Stop the no, that's the yes. That's my choice. That's to me, that's before I am. Knocking before they come in. My home. Asking them to come in my room. That's my stuff. You ask me. You ask me. No my stuff. Yes, my choice. That's a set. That's my right. There you go, come in. That's my sister.
Okay, so there you can see Marta very passionately sharing her views about consent and rights. So that leads me into my question for you. And I want to hear what you are passionate about. And we can do this into the chat. I want to see the chat fly. Like there's how many people here? Close to 200? The chat should be filling up. I want to hear what you are passionate about. So the things, people, what are those things that really get you going? What are you passionate about? Let's see. Full inclusion. Yes. The Marta spirit is contagious. My kids and their opportunities to be themselves, plain language, family, teaching and dance, diversity. Oh, it's going so fast. Self-expression, diversity and equality, art, rights, self-care, social justice, my new grandbaby, learning, outdoors, painting, gardening, people in music, good food, living disability and neurodiversity, family, human rights, nature, creating, health and wellness. Oh my goodness, I can't keep up. Okay, there's like 26 that I hate to fly down through. Accessibility, justice, reconciliation, my dog. Yes, there's so many things in here, lobbying and advocacy. This is a really big part of the advocacy training, is just getting in connection with the things that are driving you and the things that are really, that you love about, and what are the things that you're willing to stand up for and fight for and do something about. So I'm loving the smiles, and I just need to flip through a couple of screens so I can see all of you. And thank you so much for taking part in throwing in carbs. I saw carbs in there. The things that you're passionate about. Okay, so let's move on. Actually, one thing I forgot to do, I recognize it's Wednesday. We normally do the question of the day. So can I get someone who speaks French to maybe throw this out in a bilingual format? How do you say, what are you passionate about in French? Who can help me out here? Danielle? Pierre?
Allô?
Hi, go ahead.
OK, ben, qu'est-ce que tu aimes? Qu'est-ce qui te fait vibrer, par exemple?
Thank you. I don't speak French, so I'm going to just assume that was a wonderful, wonderful job that you did. Can anyone throw in some of the answers in French? And Danielle, I'm going to look to you because you had put your hand up too. Just let me know. Or looking good? Okay, some of those I get. Yeah, my kids, my family, school, dance, social justice, compassion. Yes. All right. So you can keep that going. I think that'll be a really nice way to kind of, share with the rest of your colleagues too, those things that you're passionate about. I know a question that you're asking yourselves are, this sounds awesome, when can I take it? So I'll share a couple of those answers for you, a couple of those questions here. So leaders, we need you to sign up for a class by the end of January 2023. There's 5 opportunities that you can take this between now and the end of January. So there's one in November, there's one in December, there's 3 in January. Some of my colleagues are throwing some things in the chat to help you out. So Kelly put in a couple of posters there to help you. And if you're on site and you can access these links, and Mel has also put in some links directly to the intranet where you can see the classes that we have coming up. So leaders, we need you to take this class before the end of January 2023. So it's really important that you sign up and take the class before you send your teams. And part of that is so that you know what's being taught in the class and you can help the conversation going after your teams start taking them as well. And this class will be required for all staff at St.Amant. And so all staff can start registering for a class starting in February of 2023. So this will be a class that's mandatory for all staff, regardless of position. Leaders, take them before the end of January. All staff, you can start signing up for them beginning in February of next year. And then I just want to wrap up with saying that the corporate education team is here to support you. So Melanie Forbes, Kelly Lambert, and myself, we're here. If you need any help with the registration, if you have any questions about this training or any of the other corporate training that we have, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach us here in the chat. All of us are here on this call right now, or through email. We're a pretty friendly bunch, so please reach out if you have any questions. Okay, that's it for me. Thanks. I'll turn it back to you, Ben.
Okay, thank you, Christina, for a fantastic presentation. And that was really one more example of how that work, like every other presentation, the work reflected in every other presentation, so clearly ties back to our strategic plan, our vision, and that set of values that inspires us all. Last but not least, we have 2 really great stories to share with you today. They both connect to the work of the Meaningful Connections Project and our goal, where it's our goal to support authentic friendship between people in the community. And Chris, I'm going to ask you to share those videos, please.
There have been many special people in Jared's life since he was a little boy. Wonderful caregivers that Jared was attached to and that they were attached to him. These people are all paid to be in Jared's life.
Hi, my name is Darren Lorenko. My friendship with Jared is pretty incredible. Meeting him has brought an extra piece to my life that I didn't think I fully needed. One of the biggest things that I've learned from Jared is just living in the moment. I used to always think of the bigger picture and always think of what I was doing later, what happened in the past, but being so happy in the moment and seeing Jared always lit up with a smile is definitely something that I've taken to my everyday life, and it's absolutely incredible.
It is so lovely to see that true and natural friendship, relationship, that Jared doesn't get the same thing with me or with other care staff. It's his buddy, it's a friend.
First time we connected with Darian after he spent time with Jared, we knew it was an instant connection. The way he spoke about Jared, the way he lit up about their time together and the plans that they'd already made after spending one day together, knowing how much Jared loved music and dancing and that they'd laugh together.
This relationship with Darian is unpaid, and that's really very special.
When it's all said and done, you don't need to rush. We got time in our cups. Yeah, it's just a little dance under the sun. And nobody knows how this life will unfold. Yeah, it's just a little.
I believe it's super important for our friends at St.Amant to have meaningful connections with people in the community. We need best friends.
Russ loves motorcycles. He loves WWE wrestling.
Yeah.
If it's got big macho energy, he's all behind it. He especially loves Harley Davidson, has lots and lots of gear, but especially over the pandemic, didn't have a way of connecting with anyone in the community very much. And I think felt a little bit depressed because he was isolated and didn't have a chance to meet new friends. So we've known about the autism ride for a while, and Russ actually buys tickets to the raffle. This year, when we found out they were doing the full ride at the Harley Davidson store where Russ likes to go, we knew we needed to be involved somehow. So Russ and I asked if we could volunteer, and we sold 50-50 tickets. And Russ had a chance to meet lots of new friends, but especially Fred. So Fred spent some time getting to know Russ during lunch and offered to take Russ for a ride on his bike. Russ wasn't quite ready for that, but he got to rev it. And after the ride, we all went to Tim Hortons to get to know each other better. And Russ has been meeting with Fred regularly ever since. They've become really good friends. They share pictures of what they've been doing. Russ loves to show Fred pictures of things he's been doing. Fred shows us photos of his dogs and his grandkids, and they just talk about different rides out there and different events that Russ might enjoy going to.
A real good friend of mine, and everybody I tell that I'm, when I come down here, they want me to do other stuff. I gotta go see my buddy Russ. Oh, he's more important to me. Yeah, he is, because he's a good friend. Could almost go to the point and say where I love you, as a friend.
We were able to go to the autism ride. It made a change for Russ. He became a totally different person, so much happier, so proud to have a new friend, and the richness it's brought to his life over the last number of months has been pretty remarkable.
Like even yesterday on my ride out to Morden, I got to go to the rest tomorrow. It's a big part of my day.
This is what we work for. Like this is it. This is the brass ring, I left that day in tears because Russ had finally made a real friend that wasn't being paid for his time, had no reason to be with Russ other than the fact that he's awesome and that they connected on a real level.
Talk about meaningful, hey? That was incredible. Huge thanks to Jared, Darian, Russ, and Fred for sharing the stories of their friendship. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little warmer inside than before watching those videos. Thank you again, all of you, for being here today. A recording of this town hall will be available on the intranet soon, so if any of your colleagues weren't able to make it today but want to catch it, you can point them in that direction. Thanks again for your time today. It's really good to come together and spend time together, and I hope the rest of your day goes really well. Bye for now.